So, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a selfish person by any stretch of the imagination. So, I'm going to open up the panel for you guys to ask questions. I see a hand over there already. That hand shot up. So, we've got 1, 2, 3 questions and 4. All right. I think that'll cover it. All right. Please stand up, give us your name, and ask your question.
Thank you. All right, my name is Xavier Bapu. It's very nice to see you guys interacting all together at once, because you normally have to watch each one's YouTube channel. So it's nice to have you all in the room. First question, it's going to be a bit controversial, because I'm on Penuel on this, and I think that the ANC is capable of doing 50% quite comfortably at the moment. That said, if you four actually, were in the ANC, what would you do right now, 98 days to the election? What would you do to change the trajectory of South Africa? And then I've got a challenge for all four of you. You have to pick a political party tonight. Which one is it going to be?
So, okay, I'll open it up to the panel to answer the question. Who do we go to first? Sizwe, let's start with you.
Sorry. Make the ANC work, or what would I do to try and get the ANC narratively out of the hole it's in? Like, so what would I say? What I would say is I would do the exact opposite of what the ANC tends to do. So we can all see in front of our eyes that things are not good right now. And we can all see in front of our eyes that the last 5 years have been a crushing disappointment for those who invested their hopes in this administration. Rather than saying, things are actually good, everyone. You should be so happy. You just can't see it, but Dintswalo, who you don't know, somewhere, is feeling great right now. I would say things are really tough, and we messed up. We thought we got it right, but we didn't. And we failed. We've actually failed to do what we thought we were going to do in 30 years. And here are the reasons for that. We realize there's actually a lot more structural power in South Africa that we can't overturn. We have corruption in our ranks, and it's really hard to run a party while trying to get rid of the corrupt people because they're also good at running the party. So we're stuck. We messed up, but here's what we're going to do in the future. And then you actually have to say you're going to do something that people want. So we're going to get rid of the corrupt elements. And quite frankly, we don't know if that means we're going to survive as a party. But because that's what you want us to do, we're going to do it. And then paint a vision for the future to tell us how you're going to do things differently in the next 5 years, rather than trying to tell us that the last 5 years have actually been good when we know they haven't been good. That's all the ANC can do. And the fact of the matter is that the ANC can't have a great message because they haven't governed well. And that's what democracy is supposed to do. If you don't have a good message, it should become palpable, and then people have to decide whether what you're selling is just another dream or whether it's really real. But that's what I would do. I'd get honest, because clearly the dishonesty isn't working.
So, but who are you voting for? That was his second question.
I'm going to exercise the opposite of a democratic right, which is a right to privacy. And I really believe that you also need to retain your right to make that decision without the pressures of other people imagining what you might do. And also for me personally, because everybody assumes that I vote or am some subterranean member, well, the number of parties has expanded. It used to be the EFF, now it's Rise Mzansi. Some people have said the ANC. I don't like declaring my political allegiance because I am truly an independent. So I'll decide, and I'll use all the time that I have to decide. But what I will say is I've voted for different parties in the past. And I might strategically split my ballot depending on the balance of power in Gauteng and the balance of power nationally. So that's as much as I'm willing to divulge.
Cheers. Okay, so I'll answer. So the second one I'm not going to answer, right? I would plead the fifth like Sizwe. So the first one, though, this is what I would do. This is the stunt I think would work for me if I was in the ANC. I would fire 3 ministers. I think that's one of the things that President Ramaphosa has been averse to do. My pick would be I'd fire the both. Actually, let's fire 4, right? Yeah,
Fire all of them.
out.
Five,
Fire
three,
on
one, six.
So
Can I get 6?
I mean, I could make a longer list, but I think these 4 will work. I'll fire basic education, higher education, right? For different reasons. I think basic education is clear that people are unimpressed with the performance of the basic education system. So I say, listen, Angie, you've had since 2009. That's 15 years. Fresh start. We're not going to wait for May. We're not going to wait for a cabinet reshuffle. New minister. Put someone like Prof. Kheti Pakeng there. I think the public will like that. She's got a maths education degree. I can sell that, right? Number 2, fire the health minister out, right? Same reasons, people are unhappy with the status of the healthcare system. Then Blade Nzimande out fire and say, listen, the NASFA scandals, it's too much. I can't explain your involvement in all of this stuff. You've got to go. Students are not happy with you. Give that job to Nompendulo Mkhatshwa, who was the Fees Must Fall leader. Everyone's happy with me. Youth, you have a ministry. We've been listening. Sorry for the delays. And then police minister also fire. I think Bekele has lost credibility. Go and find whoever's running CAPS, put that person in the ministry, because people think that CAPS is one of the most effective security organizations. Say, listen, this warden thing is not working. We've got this guy now. We're going to retrain the cops. We're going to recapitalize. We're not waiting for the election. Sorry it took so long. I'm listening. I'm now distancing myself from this ANC of inertia. This is at the Cyril level. Everything else I think they're doing. I think the ICJ case was a great political moment for the South African government. It definitely had journalists and activists and citizens rooting for them. So I think that was a win. I think if you look at the rhetoric that is coming from the ANC on immigration, they're trying to cut out Action SA's strongest talking points. They're trying to out-Trump Action SA. And as a result, Herman has been struggling to get credibility, because how do you win the issue if Aaron Motsoaledi is also aggressively pushing the issue, right? So I think they're doing that. And at the same time, I think Panyaza has done a lot of what they would do to try to salvage the situation. All of these jobs that have been created, these peace jobs, that's part of salvaging the situation. They are fighting. They're looking at the same polls we're looking at. And people who have been used to easy money will fight like hell to keep access to easy money. That's why they've been so close to ZANU-PF. That's why even with KZN, all of these mini rallies before Saturday is to try to counteract the threat of Mkhonto Sizwe. They're paying people, they're busing people, they're trying to do, these are rehearsals. That's what they are, right? They're rehearsals before Saturday, because they saw that the birthday celebration was not the convincing message. And what they're trying to do is to make sure that Saturday is a full house, irrefutable, so that they can claim that they are unshakable and they still have the unwavering support. ZANU-PF was doing the same thing. KFC, chickens, Coke, everything last year, to try to make sure that every political event they had was a full house. And to a degree, it worked for them. So I think I would fire the ministers and I'd keep everything that they're doing. So I don't think this is going to be an easy election by any stretch of the imagination, even though I think that the ANC is at real risk of falling under 50. But I think that they're going to fight like hell. They're fighting like hell already. And it's subtle, because it's not coming with a vote ANC t-shirt every time. But if you pay attention to the little strands, they're trying to extract votes. Those who are concerned about immigration, and it is an issue, they're extracting votes from that side. Those who are concerned about foreign policy, Israel-Palestine, they're extracting votes from that side. Those who are concerned about unemployment and security, they're extracting votes from that side. Those who are concerned about numbers, momentum, the look and feel of success, they are paying for the visuals of success, right? And even the 30-year story is part of trying to shift the narrative. I don't think it's working, but I think if you had a grand gesture like my firing 5 ministers, then maybe you're in the game.
Jeez. I hate your question. I just need to let you know. I hate it so much. One of my biggest pain points with the ANC over the years has been their woeful marketing of the work that they've done. Your question was 98 days till elections. 98 days. Very critical time. Joseph Goebbels, I think, with Hitler and Nazi Germany, Edward Bernays, I'd go into propaganda overdrive. Social media, pumping a lot of the struggle content. Where we come from as a country, the struggles of apartheid, and even before that, British colonization. Bringing back all the heroes, especially for the young kids, to be like, these are the people that you guys have never heard of, that are the reason why you have freedom today. And then telling the story, starting with the story of Nelson Mandela, going to SABC, specifically even radio, Ukhozi FM, and the other bigger stations. And pumping this narrative of where we've come from as a country, playing the movies, Sarafina, Cry Freedom, and then you start telling the story of the work that's been done since '94. And this is mostly on social media. Every time you're on TikTok, every time you're on Facebook, you are seeing communities where there were no roads, and there are roads today. You are seeing grandmothers today who are going to fetch their medicine from a clinic that didn't exist. You are seeing children today who are medical doctors, who are engineers, who are scientists, not just here but globally, because of work that has been done by the ANC. In that, you very little highlight on the corruption. Make sure that you emphasize that, look, the corruption is minimal and we are working on it. People have been jailed, people have been fired, we are hearing you, we are doing work. But you have got an aunt, an uncle, a brother, a sister who maybe has earned a tender, which they would never have gotten during the apartheid reign. One of them is qualified, something they would have never had. You've got a family member who's in a house that they got for free. You yourself, in some way in this system, you could be like, but I didn't benefit from government. There are, I think, 7 pillars of black economic empowerment. And one of them is employment equity. You would have never been hired. You would have never been hired just for being black or female. They were forced. It was annoying and they hated it. Why do we have to hire these people? But you're there now and you've proven that you're actually worth it. I think over 3 million RTP homes at an average of 3 people, 4 people per house. That's 9 to 12 million people housed. The number of children, I think we have 67% of our schools are no-fee schools. No one has to pay. Kids getting an education. Is the education great? Probably not. But the kids have a place to go to and they get fed. Might be the only meal that they're going to get that day. Some of the schools, the kids actually even get given school uniform. The number of buses that people get bused for free. The number of agricultural programs where people get feed, where people have got pig structures. The number of entrepreneurs that have gotten NEF funding, CFA funding, back when we had Umsobomvu, and you tell these stories each and every day aggressively, and every time someone says something, you're like, this is the work we've been doing. You may hate us, but I can tell you now, Musi Maimane is an ANC graduate because he was an ANC guy, and today he can make noise. Julius Malema, as much noise as he can make, was an ANC Youth League leader. We groomed him. The leader that you're seeing today, nationalization, it's us. The ANC has done so much good, and obviously bad news, it sticks, and we own it, but it's because their marketing machine is so bad, along with many other bad things. But 98 days to go, I would just go on propaganda overdrive. There are so many South Africans in diaspora that I meet when I travel. Black, colored, Indian, a lot of white, of course. They're frustrated with the country, they'd love to come back. But it's because of opportunities they've gotten. There are white people in this country who became billionaires under the ANC government. May not be nice to hear for black people, but it's like, we made you rich. There are Indian people in this country that became super rich because of the ANC. There are black people, we speak about Saudi today, whose house is frozen, 75 million being auctioned, would never have existed without the ANC government. So, have we made mistakes? Of course. Could we be better? Is there corruption? Your own mother stealing textbooks where she teaches at school. Your father stealing medicine. You lied on your NSFAS application. Where are you, Baba? But are you a bad person? You're not. Are we bad people? We're not. We rock up. We're there in Parliament. We show up in Parliament. We're there at the rallies. You may not like us. We may be fat and old and have gout, but we're there.
Campaign poster, we may be fat and old and have gout, but
we're there. Even Jacob Zuma now with the MK thing, he even had to borrow steal from Umkhonto weSizwe because he had nothing else. All he knows is the ANC. The ANC is the only political party in this country, fundamentally, with whatever little bit or lot that it's had, that has made a fundamental difference in everyone's lives. You can kick and scream, and the reality is we're just frustrated because we think they can do better. Can they do better? Yes. With who? With your help. Vote ANC. So again, I hate your question. Because it's, it's kind of helping the ANC in their campaigning. The ANC, and look, one of the coolest things Sizwe has said before is the ANC is but a vehicle to a proverbial promised land. Moses and the promised land. It's a vehicle. At a time, it was the best vehicle. At a time. But we are intelligent people, I'd like to think. And it's something to challenge even the black majority, the poor black majority. You are intelligent people, and you can see when the bus you're on is no longer going where it needs to go. Did they build the roads? Of course. What do the roads look like now? Will they build the clinics? Of course. What do the clinics look like? But look at how they're living. These guys refuse to even live in the wards they govern. Vote for me, but I'm going to go live there in a DA ward. Which means I don't trust what I'm giving you. I refuse to use public hospitals because I'm scared of dying. But what if I die? No, we'll try and do better. No, then you come. No, hey, Baba, I've got medical aid. Why don't your kids go there? Baba, I want my kids to have the world. Which means you don't believe in the products you're selling to us. So people need to understand that the democracy we were sold, it made sense at the time. It doesn't make sense anymore. And even the idea of Musi Maiman and Herman Mashab and all were ANC people, thank you so much. But just because my mom and my dad made me doesn't mean I need to stick to the orthodox ways they did things, because it's part of why we were in debt and struggling and suffering. I have to move. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. And because of what you've done for us, we are now moving. I've struggled with which political party to vote for. I wanted to spoil my ballot. The sad thing is spoiling your ballot does nothing. The IEC doesn't tally them up and say, look, this is how many people spoiled their ballots. I think they're saying something to us. So we're going to maybe block these seats. Or we're going to maybe, because you guys didn't meet a quorum of 50% of at least registered voters or voters, we're going to say these elections are null and void. We have to vote again until we get this quorum. It does nothing. It's as good as not voting, which is very sad. A lot of people, of course, are ANC loyalists, and they would rather not vote than vote for another party, which is also a message, but we can't get that message because spoiling your ballot does nothing. Looking at all the options that are out there, and again, going back to my Springbok analogy, there are certain people that I wish could sit in those seats. I like Julius. I voted for the EFF in 2019 because the EFF did what the ANC was failing to do, which was bring young people into parliament. The ANC was failing. The EFF said we'll bring young people. Those young people were actually ANC Youth League people, but they did it. So some of the old people lost their seats, and I appreciated it. And you could hear them making parliament something that people wanted to watch. Since then, unfortunately, with the flip-flopping in some of their policies or the understanding of their policies, I'm not comfortable with the EFF anymore. And I do believe that over time, they will become a reimagining of the ANC. They'll get into power if they ever do, and then they'll hit us with the same, look, it's complicated, and global, we have to consider the market, and you're like, but that's not what you said, though. I don't know Songezo Zibi yet. I hope he'll come to the Penuel show and we'll have a chat. A lot of people are liking him. The Oppenheimer funding him, which some people applauded, I'm like, that is not a good look. Unfortunately, perception management is a real thing. Bell Pottinger doesn't make money for selling bananas. They actually work on perception. I liked, even though he's not into politics, I liked what Motlanthe did with the guys at Operation Dudula. Speak about foreigners and getting South Africans to be involved in business. I like Herman Mashaba, Michael Beaumont at Action SA. It would be lovely if they had seats and were to speak. I wish Helen Zille could come back. She's respected by almost everyone in politics. She's a really tough makoko, but she's liked by a lot of people, and even those that don't like her respect her. As old as he is, maybe because he still has the power, he still has the influence, maybe bring Umsholozi back to have a seat, just to say something there. A lot of these other political parties, this is my point. I wish we could have a conversation as South Africans and say, look, can some of us sacrifice and vote for some of these people so they can have seats? Just so that the ANC is not hogging seats with grannies that are sleeping. That's all. But I decided to go for a leader. I do not support his political party. And I have to add this disclaimer because people are going to think I'm endorsing the political party. I don't support the political party. I don't really know who else is in that political party, which is very important because you vote for a party just because of one person. Next thing, that person is not even sitting on the seats. I like Gayton McKenzie. It's because I know him personally. This is important. It's partly because of his history as an ex-convict. Again, we will speak about grit and balls. He has it. He is an ANC guy. He was a very big Zuma guy. He was very big in supporting Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. When she lost to Cyril, he left. That's when he left. I like Jacob Zuma, by the way, personally, for many reasons, but I also dislike a lot of his political decisions. Conversation for another day. Put South Africans first, I think, has been very loud from him, and it's something we've lost, that patriotism. Put South Africans first. Making noise about illegal foreigners, it is a crime. Until we agree that it's not. Musi, my mind has been wishy-washy. Other people are like, legalized. You're like, it's because it's convenient. You want a slave labor class to power your businesses. But until we agree that we're fine with people here illegally, they need to go. He's willing to speak up to a maverick politician like Julius Malema, and very few politicians are as sharp as Julius. And Gayton has got the voice and the vuma and that thing, Yashaudi. So for that reason, I'm going to vote for Gayton because I'd like to see him in parliament. Who is he going to bring with? I don't know. Kenny, not really sure. I like Kenny, but I don't really want him in parliament. I don't know who else he's bringing. That's who I'm voting for. But I hope other people will vote for other leaders that are vocal and that seem to be doing something on the ground, is all I'm hoping for.
All right.
Okay.
Do you still want to hear what I have to say, Xavier, or are you over it?
No, if you have still time, it's fine.
Should I? Okay, I'll keep it short and sweet, just like I am. If I was part of the ANC right now, if you are 65 and above, you're out of a job. It's done. If you are going to be 65 in 5 years, it's done. You're gone. We're going to put you in an advisory board where we'll come to you for leadership and assistance. We are throwing all of that aside. We're going to look at the cabinet. We're not reshuffling. We're going to get rid of a couple of unnecessary add-ons. And I don't want to go through the list, but you know what I mean, right? And then on top of that, we come up with some sort of action plan to deal with what you just mentioned, the illegal foreigner issue. It is a hot button issue. We have to deal with it, whether we like it or not. And yeah, I think those are the first three things I'll do. Anyway, next question from the audience.
Yeah.
Who are you voting for, Baba?
Oh, I am Leo. That's a secret. We are not going to get.
Can't trust you guys. These guys are all voting ANC.
No.
No,
just like you, I like Gayton, but we'll have a chat about that off air.
Okay,
Next question.
Excuse my French because I'm from a French background. And thank you to Podcast Party and the panelists who painted the floor. But I'm from Impulse Radio Africa. We speak about democracy. I think democracy goes with politics and economy. And I think that my brother here spoke about the system. My question will go toward the fact that we're still playing the game of our ancestors, Pan-Africanists, who are being busy years ago speaking about the same matter. My question will be, what are we doing as young generation? I think Mandela had his fight. Each generation has his fight. We're speaking about a system that, as you say, is not appropriate for our culture. I believe that our true culture and system is Ubuntu. You're speaking about foreign immigration. You're speaking about other matter. But all those things fall under Ubuntu. We had foreigners long time ago in this land. We never had problem. The capitalism, the democratic system, and the politics that we learn from a system who are not taught by educated people, because I don't know, I will quote Senghor from Senegal, who said that the failing of Africa will be the intellectual. I study a bit of politics, and I know that someone like the Prince, if you read the book called The Prince, Machiavelli never went to school. He was a philosopher. I think that we don't leave our African brother the space to think for themselves. We don't have a class of philosophers who can basically detect us and direct us through our Ubuntu system. I think that we try to appropriate what we don't understand, and that's why we're fighting ourselves here. And that's why we have the same debate. And this debate, unfortunately, will be here 100 years after today if you're not fighting the true cause. And I believe that is the system, like you say. So what do we do about that? That's why I applaud the PR who managed to collect together such, audience with many thinkers, intellectual and others, scholars maybe, to open such a discussion, because I believe that if you start to speak together as brothers, whatever, north, south, east, west, central, and address those issues, and address the issue of democracy, who brought war. Congo is still suffering until today, but you are busy here in media speaking about USA fight. You're speaking about Israel fight. What about our brothers? You speak about immigration. It's a sensitive topic, but we have to talk about that. Why our neighbor come home? Why they come here? Because it's home. Because they, the brother here say, I forgot, James, I think, say, the condition of living. Do we take care about that? Where we had under Ubuntu, a condition of living where everybody was fed and welcome in other land, where we are not oppressed by one guy who's a scholar who embed the system that we call today democracy. Because our murderers are ourselves. So my question to you, what are we doing now? Are you still playing the game like puppet and discuss about topic like democracy that don't fit, or we move? Thank you.
Thank you, Penuel. So, guys, looking at the time, with these questions, I would like for whoever has the best field to just take their shot at it, and then we'll go on to the next question, yeah?
Maybe I'll try. I don't know if it was directed at me. Anyone? No, merci beaucoup.
So
I'm learning French, even though it's through Duolingo, because it is more widely spoken on the African continent than English. When you said, excuse my French, I thought we were about to hear some F-bombs. I was kind of waiting for them. Sankofa is a term that is used about going back into the past to find solutions for the future. There is, as small as it may be, some kind of reawakening amongst a group of people. But yes, we are still hoping that great speakers and great ideologies are good enough. You don't fight a strong system with good speakers, good orators, and great ideas. You fight a strong system with another strong system. And it is one of the conversations we're not having. What systems can we build? Jack did speak before about me building my own religion. It's not a conversation for today. But one of the things that I'm thinking about in building my religion is looking at the power structures that almost govern the world. And there are groups that I admire. In South Africa, it's the Afrikaners. Small group, I think about 2 million of them. Globally, I think the numbers might be 17 million Jewish people in the world. It's comparable to the number of Zulu people in South Africa. But you look at the influence that these groups have had, Afrikaners in South Africa and Jewish people across the world. And I think if we are going to build systems, it's not necessarily going to require the entire population. I think it's going to require a group of focused people to say, this is what we're going to do together. People may not like us, people may call us names. They will thank us later, because this is what we need. Who will those people be? I'm not sure. Will they be infiltrated? It's constantly happened. But that's the conversation we need to have. And then we need to really be sure about the ideology, of which Ubuntu is very dangerous. It is used by people that leech off others. They're like, where's your Ubuntu? Because they're trying to get something from you, but it's not mutual. The second thing is it just for black people? Is it just for Africans? Because that's very important. Because that's normally where we kind of lose the plot. And it's a very, very complex conversation, especially for black people to have. I've had Dr. Umar Fatunde, who's a Pan-Africanist scholar. I've had Joshua Maponga. They are fixated on an African can only be a black person. And you almost lose the fight before you even start there. And I think that's one of the mistakes that a lot of better leaders than us have failed at. One of the reasons the ANC has been in power for so long is because they were more inclusive. But they have benefited a big chunk of black people in that. So I don't know who's even having that conversation, which is the saddest thing. So we keep recycling. Coup, a young political upstart speaks well and then gets captured by money, and then we lose him again, and then it starts again. But the philosophers, the thinkers, they need to remember that speaking and ideas are not enough. You need to build a strong system. What does it take? I think that's the conversation we need to have.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have been here for quite some time. I believe we've got one more question over here. Tahir, can we please get him the microphone? I think after that, we will wrap it up.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Fakir Hassan. I had the privilege of having worked for the SABC in every election except the last one, because I had to retire 8 years ago. And my job was handling all the challenges of parties, complaining at ICASA, etc. Just by way of sketching my background. I actually loved it. If you were some of my colleagues like Garrett to be sitting on the other side of the fence, they often offered commiserations, but I loved it. But I don't know how much you follow Indian politics in India. They also have an election here this year. Now, I was thinking of an interesting thing which you might want to chase. Congress in India since 1947 had the same kind of attitude that the ANC has here. Dynastic politics of the Gandhi family. Similar statements regularly, like what one of our former presidents made. The ANC will rule until Jesus comes. Remember that? So they would do similar things. For the last 2 elections, they came almost nowhere. The BJP threw everything out. And right now, there is frantic, very frantic coalition discussions going on. You know, it's the biggest democratic elections in the world. So many parties. Every single day you watch NDTV, you'll see party allegiances change by the day. Lots of horse trading going on. I can't really compare it here, but I'm wondering if you would comment on the issue of dynastic politics, if you will, in considering the ANC as a kind of dynasty as well, in its own view, that they could never really be thrown out, except I think there is a reality now of that. So I just thought I should share that comparison, because it shows the world changes. And I think the ANC and others will also realize that South Africa changes. Thank you.
So we wrap up here.
No, well, I would like an opinion from one of you,
Okay.
whoever's open to answering that.
No, I think, thank you for mentioning that, and it's good to see someone else who worked at the public broadcaster, and I look forward to sharing experiences with you as I currently work there now. And what I will say is I will one day write my book, and I look forward to reading some of your experiences, because it's a fascinating institution, and you certainly feel multiple pressures when you work there. All I'll say is that I think the Indian example is really interesting and really apt at this moment, because when a political monolith like the ANC or the INC in India's case falls, it happens very slowly and then very quickly. So you never know when that very quick moment is. And what I'm trying to suggest now is I think we're there. We might not be, but when it happens, it's going to be very quick. And so I think what India teaches us is that if you can roughly keep the institutions in place, that moment where the liberation movement falls happens really fast.
Do you want to say something? Can I?
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I had an amazing gentleman, the CEO of the Free Market Foundation, David Ansara. He actually went to visit India because he's been very fascinated by India's political history, and he mentioned exactly what you're saying. I think I'll reference it to something I said earlier with Africans, where we are so used to kings and chiefs, where we treat Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi as a king and Jacob Zuma as a king, and we still have that embedded in us. And maybe it's something that younger generations won't have. Maybe it's something that a few of our older family members still have. I also want to say congratulations, by the way, on your career, and thank you so much for your service. So I think it will change, that dynasty thinking, because we are changing, and the young people are not speaking to that, just in my opinion. Can we learn from it? Definitely. Is it something that we need to be discussing? I believe so. Because we do have the danger of, even after certain popular families in politics today, after they sort of die off, we might find new families sprouting up and then doing the same thing again. And how to avoid that happening.
Even when you think about the democracy as a form of government, it hasn't really been around that long. Like before that, we had the era of conquest, which was kings and queens doing all of this stuff. And along the line, the idea of democracy was widely distributed, and people then took on the mantle of democracy. I mean, we've seen communism, socialism, fascism, all different types of ruling systems. And I think to answer your question, I think the same thing that happened to the monarchs is the same thing that happens to dynastic built parties, in my opinion. Jamie, do you have anything to add?
Look, I was just waiting for the closing because I think you guys have dealt with it. So I'll try to maybe just encapsulate some of my thoughts from strands of questions that were remaining. So I actually don't like this idea that democracy, or the narrative that democracy is not an African thing. I don't think that I would have survived in Shaga's Africa or Lobengula's Africa or Msiri's Africa or anybody like that, because if you were not in the right family, if you were not in the right tribe, you were basically going to be a servant till you die, married to an ugly woman if ever you were married. Just putting it out there, right? That was the reality, because Lobola was a wealth thing, right? So I'm not persuaded by this perception that our governance system in Africa needs to move away from democracy. I think, foreign or not, democracy is a model that works. You know, it's like maize. I think maize is foreign to Africa, but we eat it, and it's a staple food in many countries. I also think that Africa needs to renegotiate its relationship with some of the ideals like socialism and some of the stuff we've embraced. I am an adherent of Ubuntu, but I don't necessarily think that it means socialism or communism in the Marxian way of arguing for those things. But I do think that there's a community aspect of Ubuntu that we need to retain, because it speaks about valuing the other and valuing the equality of the community. And when you have equality, I think that's when democracy works. I think this chief attitude, this big man attitude, this big car brigade attitude is exactly a continuation of African tradition in the name of democracy. So I don't think we've done democracy right. The second thing I would say is, the question was around what is our generational challenge. I think at this point, the big discrepancy that exists is in education. It is the equalizer. So as middle class South Africa, as middle class Africa, as elite Africa, I don't want to presume where people fall in that equation, I think we have an obligation to try to fix the standards of education. I'm not talking about having more BA graduates necessarily, but having people with the right skills that are required by society. If it's electricians, doctors, nurses, engineers, so be it. I do think that we need to have a generational commitment to education. I do think that we have to have a general commitment to welfare. What do I mean by this? After my long speech about we don't think socialism works, is hunger is a real barrier to progress, and so is disease. If we can see that this government is not going to fix things, why can we not use models of social collaboration to pool funds together to deal with those two issues? Because any money that goes into the government pot right now ends up in Sodi's pockets or someone else's pockets. So how do we then help people at the point of life? In African communities, we're great at the funeral. If you die, your funeral is still going to be respectable, because we can't let you die in indignity. But for me, the question then becomes, why can we not extend that rationale to sickness and to learning? If we can fix that, if we can make that our generational mission, it may be parallel to what the state is doing, because I do think we may need to operate parallel to the African Union, to the African Parliament, up until the point where they can get their act together, because they see that we have our act together. That's often what resistance movements have done as they prepare to take over a country, is to work in a parallel structure and make sure that parallel structure works. So that's what I think we need at this moment.
All right. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for gracing us with your presence and giving us your thoughts on the world that we live in today. I think we touched on so many different things. I imagine all of us are walking away from this conversation having learned something that we probably didn't know before. I would be remiss if I did not mention, where is Kabelo? He was in the audience a second ago. A gentleman by the name Kabelo Ratsefola. He works at Halfway Toyota in Four Ways. He is one of the people that jumped on the opportunity to work with us on the podcast party. I imagine you saw the vehicle parked outside when you walked in. So he helped us out with getting that sponsorship. So I'm not sure where he is. I would have loved for him to stand up, but nonetheless, thank you very much, Mr. Ratsefola. Secondly, I would ask humbly all of you to follow us on our social media platforms. On all of them, it is at Podcast Party SA. We're really easy to find, as well as on YouTube, which is where we will be sharing this amazing conversation. And I imagine all of you know how to keep track of these fine young men. So to quickly wrap up, gentlemen, your final thoughts, sweet, short, and let's call it a night.
I've wrapped up, so you can skip.
Oh, you're done.
Yes.
Thank you, Jamie.
In the spirit of Ubuntu, I've also wrapped up.
Jack, I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you for being such an amazing host to us. Thank you to the team, the production team. They still have work after this. Thanks again to Rena. Thanks to Gareth. Thanks to everyone who was involved in making this happen. I'm wishing the podcast party nothing but the greatest of success. I hope we can shift this mountain. This is a small stone, but to move a mountain, it's one stone at a time. And to you guys that are here, I mean, without you, we'd probably be looking crazy speaking to ourselves. But we appreciate you. And we hope that each of you, in whatever little space that you're in, can lead. You don't have to lead a country. Just try and lead your family. Just try and lead your family. If you have a bit more appetite, take it to your community. If you have a bit more appetite, then take it a bit further. But each and every one of us has a responsibility to make the world a bit better than we found it. And I think these conversations are for that. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, thank you again for taking the time of day to joining us for this panel discussion. We will be having more of these, and we will notify you on all our social media platforms. Thank you to the team. Like, you guys are absolutely amazing. I don't know how we got to put this thing together, but you guys rock. You're amazing. Thank you so much to everybody at Podcast Party. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And just like that, we wrap it up for the evening.
Are we done? I forgot to thank my panelists. Cheers.